you know, Dracula is supposed to sustain himself for a month out there. So he brings on board, in one of the crates, he brings on board a woman from a nearby village from where from his castle, that they sacrifice to him, and so that he can have the blood supply he needs for the journey. So eventually, the crew find her, and they take her out of his hands. So now he's lost. He doesn't have any blood supply. So he starts attacking the animals. He starts attacking, eventually, of course, the crew. And they don't know what's going on, and she doesn't really know what's going on either. So, yeah. Clemens is very unique in the way that he is one of the very few black men who were able to get into a university at the time, like Cambridge, like where he studied. But because of the color of his skin, he was never taken seriously when he applied for work afterwards, even though he was a doctor. So he kind of traveled around in a capacity that was near his father's occupation, and eventually ended up in Varna at the same time and going back to England. And he kind of, by some accidents and conviction, he gets back on board the ship. And his capacity as a doctor makes it possible for Anna to, when they find her, she's drained of blood, but he knows how to do a blood transfusion with very simple means, the way they did it back then. And he's able to sustain her life throughout the journey until more or less the very end. And in a way, therefore, keep her from becoming, a different type of presence. To me, Dracula is a 400-year-old man, and that should show in his character, and that should show in his presence in the movie. He's also, as the movie starts, or at least as we get on the boat and he loses his blood supply, he's a character who's like an addict, or he needs his blood, as we need food in a way also. So it's not just an addict, it's just necessary to live. So when he is deprived of that, he gets weaker and weaker, and he needs to go out and get it. So that aspect to him, the need to regenerate himself in a way, is a huge aspect to a certain section of the movie. But when it comes to the visualization of him, I wanted him to feel like an older man. I wanted him to feel like he is fragile. And in that way, make him, in a way, also desperate and dangerous. I also wanted Dracula to be, I wanted this to be the scariest depiction of Dracula, ideally ever, in a movie. That's at least the goal we set ourselves. Because a lot of Dracula movies are dramas. They're also, it's an amazing broad story. They're trying to usually tell the whole story of Dracula from the book in some variation. And this is one of few movies that are really focused on just this, or specifically our movie is focused on one section. So that gave us an opportunity to go into just a section of the character, not necessarily deal with the whole range of aspects to the Dracula character. But we needed to always keep a sense of humanity to him, so he doesn't just become an animal, if you will, or a monster. He is a sophisticated character. I mean, he's a very sophisticated character. But in this instance, he comes down into this kind of feral, desperate, state. And that's what we wanted to make the movie about. And eventually he also evolves into something of a bat-like creature, which Dracula has the ability to evolve into many things. And definitely into this creature, and that's the one we focused on in the movie. One thing that preoccupied me in the process of building or creating the ship was that it was supposed to be very dull in a way. It had to be very everyday. It had to be like a cargo ship, not a beautiful big whatever they're called. It needed to be a very simple ship, but it also needed a lot of space. We needed to make it huge because they are supposed to walk around on the ship day and night and discover new things. So if the ship was too small, they literally didn't have enough space we didn't have enough space to tell the complex story that we're telling. So we actually built, I think, the biggest ship that has ever been in that tank in Malta, and I think that includes all of Ridley Scott's movies that are also shot there. So it was enormous, and we needed this vast space on top, and we needed to feel like a labyrinth inside, with all nooks and crannies and dark spots and long hallways, and of course this big, enormous cargo hold, where all the boxes Dracula is shipping, where they're all held for the entirety of the journey. And that had to be graphic and impressive and kind of frightening as a place to be. And I also wanted the ship to feel very grounded and gritty and dirty and real. And so we had to go over the whole ship, and it was built with old material, and it was built with so many people who were sanding it down and making it look old and used, and we were going over it again and again to make sure that it just really felt grounded down from 50 years of use at sea. I wanted our Dracula to feel different than the rest of the Draculas I've seen. I wanted him to be more animalistic in the design of the teeth, not just two fangs, but crooked and kind of nasty-looking teeth, and still able to hide them. So in society, he would just look like an older guy with bad teeth in a way. That's it. But on the set, when you see him with his teeth, it should be terrifying. It should be a mouth that should scare you in a way. I mean, we're just looking for a great actor to portray Clemens, and you talk about who that could be, and eventually his name came up, and we were all very excited about it, and really felt like he could portray a warmth and a charismatic character and be a lead in this movie. I mean, it was just, he has to wait to pull that off as an actor and the capacity, and he fell for the script, and we all had conversations with him, and we were just, this kind of work out, so that's great. Corey is very engaged, he's very present, he's thinking all the time, he's trying to analyze his position in the scene, his position, his character. He worked tremendously with his accent, which is, of course, he's an American playing an English character, so that's a whole thing. And he really has his strive for authenticity is fantastic. And no, I mean, he was an absolute joy to work with.